and welcome to People and Power. I'm Juliana Ruhfus. On today's program, Crude Amnesty. The whole process sounds incredibly dangerous. On August the 6th, 1 year ago, the government of Nigeria offered an amnesty to militants in the Niger Delta region. Over the next 60 days, 20,000 emerged from their camps, accepting the government's unconditional pardon and the promise of cash payments and training in return for their weapons. Militant groups composed mostly of young men unable to find jobs first emerged in the early 90s. Many also voiced a political agenda, protesting environmental degradation and the underdevelopment and substandard living of the Delta's roughly 30 million residents. Militant attacks had a direct impact on Nigeria's oil production and even global oil prices. But militants were also dying in army attacks across the Delta, eventually leading both sides to enter secret talks about an amnesty to end the conflict. Earlier this year, I returned to the Niger Delta to see how effective this amnesty strategy has been. It's a bleak day in Port Harcourt, capital of Nigeria's river state. We have come to the waterfront slum, where some of the former militants have settled. So, I'm Juliana. What's your name? Not again. I'm Juliana. Hi. So is this your area?
Yeah, this is where we stay, we manage, we are suffering.
We've heard there are some complaints. Okay, we've arrived.
You don't expect me to be living here, to be working here. Look at it, the place is even leaking. And
how
everywhere
many people stay in this room?
As many as you can see us.
But when you sleep at night, how many people sleep in here?
At times we sleep more than 10.
10 people?
Yes.
10 is even small.
They say the monthly allowance they've been promised by the government is being delayed. So that was in December last year?
Yeah.
And did you get this money?
This money? No.
Philip suspects the military, which was in charge of cash distributions, may have taken a cut.
But we want government to send our money to the bank, that Spring Bank, that they open account for us directly. And let the money be pushed into our different accounts so that nobody will touch our money again.
Others say their former leaders have taken a percentage and are not responding to complaints. And where are the commanders now?
They are in the big cities.
They're in the big cities.
They have money. The money that comes in, they share it within themselves.
The one that does not access, they take it away from us.
They share the money between themselves. So most of them are having cars, they stay in the city.
They're cheating you.
They're cheating
well.
us.
Very well.
So we are not happy.
The mood was very different in October last year, when the fighters came out of their camps in the Niger Delta's mangrove creeks. The federal government had promised the gunmen an unconditional pardon, a $400 per month allowance, and a training and reform program in return for surrendering their weapons. A total of 20,000 former fighters were registered for the amnesty across all 9 Niger Delta states. But despite the government's promises, nothing was ready. Here in River State, the local governor provided a holding camp for militants seeking to enter the reform and reintegration process. How can you tell whether a militant is or isn't reformed?
The behaviors, the way they were behaving before, now there is nothing like that any longer. That they go about, roaming about, smoking, a lot of bad things, there is no more in them.
Shall we meet some of them then?
Of course. Let's consider.
But Alu Camp is only a temporary facility and will soon be dismantled.
Gentlemen, like I was telling you, these are the ex-militants. As you can see them, they are very, very okay now.
Even here, there are problems with the payments.
Yes, they have been very good, but one thing we really need to talk about is how our payment is being delayed.
Well, this is not the first time that we're hearing about the problems with delayed payments and stipends for the militants, ex-militants. What's the reason for this, and why is there such a problem with the payment system?
Well, it must be some logistics problem, some bureaucracy from Abuja. This payment is being coordinated centrally from a point. And of course, you know that before government spends money, approval will have to go from one desk to the other desk. It's not as if the money is in any place waiting. We have no direct dealings with them on money.
The federal government is responsible for payments, but many problems are faced on a state level. The Sergeant Major takes us on a tour of the facilities.
This one, they are all the same.
Out of the 8,000 ex-militants that you had in River State, how many of them were staying in this camp?
Here has a capacity for
We have a
1,100.
Yes, 1,200.
1,200 capacity.
This week, the federal government has finally opened its training camp in Obubra. But how does it work? There's only 2,000 people in Obubra.
2,000, we have 600 from River State.
640 from River State.
From River State.
So then you send 600 to Obubra.
Yes.
Where are the others that were staying
No,
here?
they're in their homes. They are in their homes
Preparing
for Obubra. When it is time for them to move, they will come back here and take off from this point to Obubra.
These ones are ready to go by Monday.
Because remember that there was a long period of delay,
Yes.
7 months, and most of them had to go back to
and
their
see
homes.
their family.
We were planning to see them again, but there are unexpected difficulties. We've been completely unable to establish just how many ex-militants from Alu camp have been moved to the federal training camp. But one thing that is clear, and one thing the newspapers are reporting, is that there are some serious problems there. They expected 2,000 militants, but 3,000 have arrived. They've made their own way there. And some of them are so discontent that they've actually attacked the car of the government official in charge of the amnesty. Faced with problems in their flagship training camp, the government had decided to shut out the media. We are no longer able to visit or get any official interviews. So we head back to the waterfront to hear more from the former militants. Why did you decide to go into the creeks to join the militants?
I decided to join the militant because I'm born in a poor condition. It takes me many things to have a food. Sometimes it leads me into begging. I beg people. Sometimes I met some people beg. I do what I don't expect to do. So push me more and more to join the militant. And the reason why I joined the militant, I don't want the unborn generation to face this same thing that I face. I want us tomorrow to become a different story.
When you were staying in the creeks, the militant leaders were giving you money. Where did the leaders get the money from?
From the oil company. They got the money from the oil company. We come out for them, stop all the workers. We shoot up in the air there. We shoot, and when we can shoot for like 30 minutes time, then they must obey us.
So you're saying there was an arrangement between the oil companies and the militant leaders. Who was negotiating this? How did this take place?
Okay, that's a good question. It takes place because we write to the company. We come to the company and let them know this is a militant. We write to them, we drop a letter with the phone number. Then they have to call the phone number, and the phone number is the leader. Then the leader will discuss with them.
The militant leader?
The militant leader will discuss with the company.
It is estimated that Nigeria has made $6 trillion in oil revenue over the past 50 years, but the vast majority of Nigerians still live below the poverty line. Demanding a fairer share, thousands of mostly unemployed youth took up arms. At the height of the conflict, gunmen attacked installations, sabotaged wellheads and tapped oil from the company's pipelines, reducing Nigeria's oil output by at least 20%. Oil multinational Shell is the main operator in the Niger Delta. The company denies that payments to militants have ever been made. Shell say that sabotage has dropped over the past 12 months and that there's been a surprising shift.
As a result of the amnesty, what's also happened is that the incidents of vandalism, and particularly crude oil theft, bunkering, has increased. As we get more access to the delta, so do the crude oil thieves.
According to Shell, 98% of spilled oil is now due to oil theft, or bunkering as it's known locally. There is, of course, a controversy about is it really bunkering that's responsible for the leaks, or is it, in fact, aging equipment and oil spills? How do you establish what the real cause of this is?
Every time there is a spill, then we have what's called a joint investigation visit, which is a visit by people from Shell, people from the government, and people from the community affected by the spill. And they together agree the cause of the spill and the size of the spill.
Shell wants to show us the increasing number of local refineries in the creeks which use crude oil tapped from their pipelines. Barges like these then ship the crude out to the open sea. The argument over who is responsible for the environmental devastation of the Niger Delta is one of the root causes of the conflict. The armed groups blamed spills on the oil companies' aging equipment, demanding huge amounts of compensation, whilst the oil companies say virtually all spilled oil is due to illegal tapping. Shell's general manager had insisted that the investigation process into the cause of oil spills is a clear-cut assessment. But we've been told that a place called Joint Crime of 4 is a typical example of a controversial investigation. When we arrive, we find a community deeply divided. Hello, are you famous?
Yeah, I'm famous.
Nice to meet you, I'm Juliana.
Juliana.
Hello. The men who've come to meet us have been expelled by a rival group of village officials. They say the group is backed by the police.
We stay in the bush because of the fear of the police and the harassment. We don't have fear. We don't have the freedom of staying at home. And this is a copy of...
The Niger Delta is plagued by countless localized conflicts. When oil companies do make payments, they often ignite disputes and violence between rival clans.
If you go to the forest, you see oil spillages.
Famous begins to tell me about the nearby spill and about the visit of a joint investigation team tasked with determining the cause of the pollution.
They will come, they will look at the place and they will tell you, they will come and give you a report later.
Why is that a problem? What happened?
What they will do, okay, sign your column as a representative of the community that they have come to do the JIT, the joint investigation visit. And as soon as you sign, they will take the blank, just take it like that and go to the office. And whatever thing they feel like to feel, they will feel it there. And most of the time, they don't even feel anything because they will tell you it is equipment, it is sabotage.
Suddenly, the conversation is interrupted.
At the site.
Excuse me now. Excuse me. Excuse me now.
The police has sent him to come. We might be arrested here.
Word has got back to the rival group that the men have come in from their camp.
Yeah, you should move. You should move. It will be safer for you because we want to go back to the camp.
In that case, we go. But we have your phone numbers, yeah?
Try to.
We'll speak.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We managed to get hold of a copy of the document which the community wanted to show us. It's a standard form filled in by the communities and the oil companies in the presence of government officials whenever a spill occurs. Only on this one, the location and the date have been left blank. In fact, pretty much all of it has been left blank, apart from the very last page, which has got all the signatures on it, and the community claims that they were intimidated because the joint investigation team turned up with the army. There have been nearly 40 reported spills in Joint Kramer 4 between 2007 and 2009 alone, and Shell say the majority of spills were caused by sabotage. Without the incident number left blank on the document, the company won't make a specific response, but Shell insists that the presence of officials and regulators during the visits makes it unlikely that anyone signs against their will. But after the tension we've witnessed, we can no longer be sure. Eventually, we received word that we can come and see the illegal refineries, which the oil companies say are responsible for much of the pollution. The damage from oil spills is everywhere. This damage, when and how did this happen?
This is as a result of a major oil spill that happened here because of equipment failure from Shell. It was the reason for the relief material that they sent to the community. Because Shell will not send relief to any community they did not pollute.
Has there been any attempt to clean this up?
No, they have not cleaned it today. No. If they clean it up, you won't say this. And you know, the people, like I said, are predominantly fishermen. No fish, no crab, no periwinkle will survive under this mangrove. This is supposed to be a thick mangrove forest that keeps the seafood, the fishes, they survive under this. But with this now, they are all dead.
Shell has admitted to 2 operational spills in 2008. The company says primary cleanup has been completed, but that compensation negotiations are now in deadlock over the extent of the spills. Smoke indicates that we are reaching a refinery. They're just telling them not to run away. We are actually surrounded by illegal refineries. Everywhere you look on the horizon, there's at least 2 there. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, it's too many. It's about 10 just over there. The workers here follow a basic refining process by heating crude in drums, distilling it until kerosene, petrol or diesel is obtained. The whole process sounds incredibly dangerous.
It's very dangerous, but they don't have an option.
Do you think the amnesty has made a difference here in the region?
According to him, he said the amnesty was basically for those that were carrying arms and kidnapping people in the Niger Delta. But those of them that their rivers have been devastated and onto the amnesty was not extended to them.
Some people would call you a criminal. Do you think that's fair? We're trying to get around, but we're just being warned that we have to be really careful. They're saying that quite often an entire island like this actually catches fire because there's so much crude on the ground. By now, the men who have brought us here have opted to wait in the safety of their boat. It seems incredible that these refineries can operate so openly whilst the army is patrolling the creeks. When we ask, the men tell us that instead of closing the refineries down, soldiers visit to demand their share of the profits. How much do they want?
sometimes they need 50,000, 100,000 or more.
That is how much the military asks you for money?
Yeah, that is.
What happens if you don't pay money to the military?
They will carry us to jail.
It's becoming clear just how deep-rooted the problems in the Niger Delta are. Until the communities are satisfied that they've been compensated for oil companies' spills, the risk of conflict just won't go away. There's virtually no formal employment, and locals who've stopped fishing because their environment has been destroyed turn to refining to make a living, closing a vicious circle of continuing pollution. Meanwhile, around 1,000 demonstrators have gathered in the capital Abuja. The men say they too are ex-militants who should be added to the 20,000 registered in the government's amnesty program. There are suspicions that many are unemployed youth tempted by the $400 monthly allowance. It's become impossible to tell just who is a real ex-militant. Since the amnesty officials are still refusing us an interview, we've made contact with a commander known as General Boylove, one of the militants' top leaders, who is now working with the government. We find him watching the World Cup final with his friends. Penalty! Penalty! For the amnesty to work, leaders like Boylove must make sure the concerns of the former militants are settled.
I think what the government promises the Niger Delta people, I think they are working up to it, so we don't want anything to obstruct the government because we've been fighting for our rights. And right now, what we are seeing, I think the government are working hard to make sure they meet up with the demands of the Niger Delta people.
We've spoken to some of the ex-militants who are saying that they are a bit disappointed with their former leaders because they feel that they're living it up in Abuja and they're close to the government now, and that they, the people who fought in the creeks, are being forgotten. Do you think that's fair? They are getting all what the white paper said. So any person you interview and say anything bad about the leaders, then that person is not a militant. The person should be somebody that they just wanted to carry along. As a former militant leader, what would you say to the ex-militants who are now getting restless and who are saying our payments are being delayed? A real militant that fights for the right, I don't think their payment is being delayed. Any person that is crying out that their payment are delayed are those people that pass through the back door. But the ex-militants we've met at the waterfront say they are still waiting for their monthly allowances. Loveday and Goddy take us on a tour of their neighborhood. We pass a local dredging company.
Waterfront, no benefit from it. In fact, they don't employ us. They don't talk to us. They don't mind us. And this company has been here for so many years.
Do you think people are prejudiced about employing ex-militants? Do you think they think you're bad guys, or they're worried about you being criminals?
They don't even think of employing us in the company just because they are afraid of employing us in the company. Nobody is ready to even give us work.
It's a big change from life in the camps, where profits from oil bunkering were distributed by the commanders. But Loveday and Goddy both say it's peace that matters most now, and had they followed the money, they would have never left the creeks. Now it's upon the government to act fast to stop them from changing their minds, not just by fulfilling the terms of the amnesty, but by addressing the root causes of the conflict too. That's it for this edition of People and Power. If you'd like to comment on this report or any other matter, we'd love to hear from you on aljazeera.net/English. Until next time, goodbye.